Welcome friends to the class of international business. So, in the last class we will continue from where we had left, and we had discussing about what international strategies do companies adopt in order to be successful, right. So, we discussed about several companies in fact, and particularly a case about Netflix, right. So, how Netflix started as a small rental company, DVD rental company, and it became one of the largest in the streaming business as of today, right. So, this company has expanded from US from where it started exactly to around more than 100 countries, and it has a revenue of around 182 sorry, it has a subscription of 182.6 million subscribers. So, which is a huge effort it requires, right. So, how did this company do? How did it balance its product? How did it balance its price? What did it do? So, how did it try to take its different stakeholders together? So, all this we discussed in the last lecture. So, today we will continue from there and we will discuss about the marketing orientations. So, when you are talking about international business, so we have looked at several key points in international business, and international marketing or global marketing is one of them. So, when you talk about the marketing orientations, what orientations should firm have or do they need to keep in mind? So, there are several kind of orientations which can happen. For example, the first one we start with is called the production orientation. Now, what is a production orientation? As the name suggests, it says the more you produce, it is better. For example, sales of undifferentiated products, or which you can understand as commodity commodity products, will be is done on basis of price generally, right, on basis of price sometimes, but they are sometimes differentiated. For example, it is very difficult to create a brand in a commodity, right. So, for like rice and all, but still you can see some brands of rice which are doing so well, right, from Pakistan and India. Certain types of mangoes, for example, bananas and oils, etc. So, with the help of innovative financing and ensuring timely and high quality supplies, production orientation has also been a very successful method of going international. Exporting the excess inventory to other markets. Many a times companies, what they have done is they have started with a home orientation, right, and after having the home orientation, what they have done, they have tried to recover the fixed cost from the home sales, that is the sales that they do in the home market. But and the extra that they get, whatever extra they produce, which is beyond which is their profit, you can say, they try to sell it to the other markets where they would have a demand, right. So, another point that comes in the production orientation is trying to sell the product in niche markets. So, niche markets, as you can understand, niche means a small pocket. Niche is a small pocket which has a ability to pay a premium to the buyer for the product, right. That means the customer is ready to pay a premium to buy the product just because it likes it or it wants it, right. So, selling to niche markets, there is a product called Inca Kola, right. So, this product which is in Peru, right, it is a product which has been a very successful product. Sometimes the products are also sold in the international market when the production is happening, high production is happening, massive production is happening. Sometimes the companies try to sell it at with low alteration or even zero alteration. For example, in many of the electrical appliances, the companies would sell the products to in the different markets, and then the distributors and the others, the agents, there would try to localize it to the requirements for the customers in the home condition. So, production orientation is one of the important marketing orientations, right. Similarly, there is one more orientation which is called a sales orientation. Now, when you go international, production orientation we have understood, but sales orientation basically means something where the product is constant, right. That means the company is keeping the product same and trying to change the market. So, it is trying to sell a product, existing product, in a new market, right. So, and it does not want to make much of a change because it believes that the product will sell automatically. Now, but in this condition what happens, what factors affect is that it depends on the type of product. Now, what kind of product the companies are selling, so that has an effect whether sales orientation will be successful or not. Now, for example, Whirlpool's high capacity front loading washing machine, right. So, Whirlpool felt there is a demand in the other markets, and they tried to sell this, and they did it well also. They were successful in selling their high capacity front loading washing machine in several new markets where this was not available. Similarly, Mars, a very popular company, started for the first time making a brand, a cat food brand called Whiskas, right. And once they did it in the US market, their ad used to be like, if cats could buy, they would surely buy Whiskas. That was the kind of ad they were making, and out of 10, 9 people supported this Whiskas brand, and that was then it became a very successful brand, and it was then sold in other markets too, right. Similarly, then you have a customer orientation. So, sometimes sale orientation does not work, but when you talk about the customer orientation, what happens is it depends on the understanding the needs and wants of the customer and localizing the product if required. So, as I gave the example in the last class about Netflix. So, how Netflix localized its product as per the requirement of the local people, the home market, right. Similarly, when you must have heard about the very famous case of KFC, McDonald's. So, it was a no beef kind of a product they started developing. So, that was localized to the market conditions, right. Many this is not only I am not talking about only FMCG or fast the regular usage products, but I am also talking about industrial goods also. In those conditions also, marketers have tried to localize the product to the needs of the local conditions, and then they have tried to sell it, right. The last orientation is the social marketing orientation. So, in this what we are talking about, this is a concern for the companies will show a concern for the environment, for the health and other issues, right. So, for example, many companies, they have put a cap, or they have put a kind of a limit rule, a guideline that child labor will not be used, right. So, and girl child education would be is one of their prime conditions, right. So, for example, you see Coca-Cola started a vitamin enriched beverage for Botswana. Botswana, I think all of you must be knowing, an African nation. So, a lot of malnutrition happens. So, they started a vitamin enriched beverage, right, and they started returnable glass containers for Argentina, Brazil and many other markets, right. As I said also, companies today are involved largely in corporate social responsibility, through corporate social responsibility in several activities which are highly by showing a concern for the society. As I said about Procter and Gamble's Educate the Girl Child campaign, and you can see large number of companies have got into such, for example, Hindustan Unilever recently made a slogan during the corona virus, that you could use any soap for that, and it might not be Hindustan Levers only, but please use it so that you can it can save you from the coronavirus. So, this kind of campaigns, attitudes, are the orientations are very important for global players to enter into the different markets and be successful, because the global branding is very important. Okay. Now, once you have discussed all this, then it becomes very important. Okay, we have understood global products, the product should be important, the price, everything, but what is the role of research? How do you do the research for the global markets? Doing research for the home market is very simple, right? At least why it is simple? Suppose we are there is an Indian company and it wants to start a new service, or a new product in the market, sell a new product. It knows what the Indian customer is like, right? Whether it is a price sensitive customer, whether it is a let us say a customer who is what is its lifestyle, the behavior. So, and that is very easy to understand also, relatively I am saying. When you compare with a customer in the new market, suppose the same Indian company would tomorrow think of getting into, let us say, Spain. Now, we do not know exactly how people in Spain think, how do they behave, what are their normal traditions. So, it becomes a real challenge because the cross cultural effects are very, very high when you talk about international business. So, a country who is operating in 100 countries or 50 countries or 10 countries or even whatever be the number, more than 2 countries or 1 country, there is a problem, there is a complexity that arises. How do you understand the consumer? And if you do not understand the consumer, you may goof up the entire thing and you may land up into trouble also sometimes. So, gathering information to make sound decisions regarding the foreign markets is a very important part and it is an essential part of the international business, international marketing research, which we can say like that. A soup manufacturer, for example, you see this, a soup manufacturer wants to enter into the Indian market. Now, what kind of information does it need? What kind of information does it need? The first information that it needs is that in India people eat with their fingers or else they just drink it, right. So, and if you think of a soup, neither you can use your finger to use eat this drink the consume the soup, nor if you just drink it, then there is no fun. So, largely Indians have a habit, right. So, there have been several interesting case studies on habits of Indian consumers, like for example, the Maggie's case, famous the this cornflakes, Kellogg's cornflakes case. Indians, the typical habits have been very difficult to sideline, and that is how companies have not been able to be successful for a very, very long time. What kind of flavor would be in demand? Now, suppose somebody comes with non-vegetarian soup, so there might be an apprehension, and many Indians are vegetarians. So, they would might not prefer, and some else might prefer also. So, the point is marketing research becomes very, very important in during international business when you want to enter into the new markets or to cater to the new markets, right. What are the areas in global marketing that are important research, which are important, right, and research is to be done? First is to understand the culture and tradition, which is related to the culture and tradition. So, what is the culture? What is the tradition? What are the habits of people? How do they live? How do they eat? How do they sleep? How do they live their life? What do they do? How do they celebrate? Now, everything is so important because if you do not understand, you might hurt their sentiments, that is very dangerous. Second is segmentation related. How do I segment the market? On what basis do I segment the market? When I am a seller and I have a product to sell in the market, how do I segment the market? It could be to the product related. What kind of products will the market demand? Which kind of products are more in demand? What should be the characteristics of these products? What should be the size? What should be the package? How should be the labeling done? Everything. How do you estimate the demand? So, another important area. How do you estimate the demand? Because if you do not estimate the demand, it becomes a cumbersome task, it might be a very, very difficult task, and the company might either get into a understock condition or a overstock condition, and both are dangerous, right. So, for example, let us imagine what happens to companies when there is a sudden change of policy of the government, right, or suddenly or you find a new habit has developed among the young mass. So, the new habit which has developed now will lead to several can have several impacts. So, okay, then it could be price related, it could be promotion related, it could be distribution related. So, the area of research which is very important when you talk about international business is that you need to look into all these different factors, and there could be many more, right. For example, you see when you talk about the segmentation research, although we have discussed, I am just briefing it. So, you have to determine the basis of segmentation. Will it be demographic? Will it be psychographic? Will it be behavioral? Will it be geographic? Will it be on basis of volume? Will it be basis of regularity of use? What is it? How do you want to segment the income level of the people? So, which is going in demographics only. So, there are several bases of segmentation. Establish the market potential and responsiveness for the various segments. So, the companies have to understand the market potential and the responsiveness both, right. Whether first of all are they responsive, are they responding? Yes, if they are responding, is there a potential? Suppose they are responding, but the potential is very small, it is so small that you would not be able to make a good amount of profit. So, then why take the headache of getting into a completely new market and then not being able to make a profit. Select the target markets, create the lifestyle profiles, demography on basis of the media, the product image characteristics, right. So, these are very important when you talk about the segmentation research. Similarly, when you talk about the distribution, so how do you what is the research involved in distribution? Now, I have given this example many a times. Many companies, when they come to India, they are puzzled by the extensive, the strong the complexity in the distribution, right. Indian distribution system is not as simple as it looks from outside, because the generally the distributors are people, generally I am saying, are people who are less educated and they have been into business as a family profession. Now, how do they think, what do they want, how do how do you gain their confidence is a very important challenge, right. So, what are the types of distribution? Is it a selective distribution is good for a country, or is it an extensive distribution? What should the company do, right. So, even when this is an interesting case, when you come to distribution, when Avon went to I think China, they found it was very difficult to sell their products, right. In order to increase their footfall, they increased their footfall by just opening a large number of shops, right, their own shops, right, in China. So, similarly, what is the attitude of the channel members? How do the channel members, how trustworthy, how loyal are they, and how conscious they are to price and other things. The intensity of the wholesale and the resale coverage, right. What are the channel margins you have to, how much channel margins you need to provide, how sensitive are they. The location of the retail and the wholesale outlets, where they are located, how they are located, all these factors are the company needs to do a proper research, and this is for, I am saying, only a product which is tangible. What about a service? How do you create a distribution channel for a service industry? It is more tougher, right. Similarly, when it comes to pricing research, what are the pricing policies? What kind of pricing is should the company follow? Should it just go for a cost based pricing? Should it go for a markup pricing? Should it go for a kind of a first go slow a penetration strategy? Should it go for a skimming strategy? What should it do, right? So, the company needs to be very clever and very clear on that. Importance of price in brand selection. What is the relationship between price and brand selection? So, there was a case when in one of the countries did research the design ornaments. So, when this company showed the consumers different kind of ornaments, designs and all, what they did was they kept a pupillometer which would look at the person's eye and gauge the the expansion and contraction of the pupil, right. So, by that they could understand whether the person was interested in the product or not interested. Now, by doing this, what they did was they found out that many of the people, the women especially who were buying the ornaments, they were showing interest for a particular design, but then what they did was, after looking at the price of the design, they would refuse to buy, right. They would say they would show interest in something else, but the point is, whatever they might say, the body language would never cheat you, right. So, when they measured the dilation of the pupil, and they could find that people are mostly interested in such kind of designs, but they are not able to afford. So, they redesigned the product to make it more friendly, price friendly. So, this is very important. The companies need to understand how to develop the price, what kind of product line pricing should they adopt. Now, what is a product line? A company has several products in the same line. That means, in detergents, let us say Unilever has got different brands. So, how across the product line, what kind of strategy can you adopt? What is what kind of, for a let us say high end customer, you can have one price, for a low end customers you can have another price, for the middle income segment you can have another product and another price. So, what is the right price? Should it be different? Should it not be different? For example, when you talk about price, one thing that became very disaster for one company was the price sensitivity issue, which came with Nano, right, Tata Nano. When Tata Nano, in fact, the whole idea of Tata Nano was to cater to the poor and the economical people, right. But when they said the poor man's car, or they said, the car for everyone, the car for the, the last person, when they kind of gave this kind of an impression, people, most of them who were about to buy also did not buy, because they felt if we buy it, then we would have a problem that anybody who would look at us, our car, would feel we are from a low background, or we are poor people. So, that image created a problem. So, what kind of a pricing mechanism should you have? It is a very important. It depends on how sensitive, how much, what is the price elasticity level, right. Initiating and responding to price changes. Should you change the price? For example, should car companies change the price if there is a sales low pressure on lows, or there is a low sales? What should they do? How should they, or should they give more benefits? What should they do? And how do you manage with the currency and the inflation rates? So, right. So, these kind of researches have to be done. I think explained one case of Harley Davidson, and which Harley Davidson was very intelligently handled the currency exchange problem and the volatility in the market, and they came out successfully by creating different plants in different countries. Instead of selling the product into different countries by making it only one place and selling it to other countries, they tried to make their locations, production locations, in several places. So, they could get advantage of economical advantages, right. Similarly, promotional research also is very important. Companies have they think of they have to understand what is the optimal promotional budget, what is the sales promotion relationship, right, optimal promotional mix, what is the best mix. So, how do you promote? Should you do it on television? Should you do it on like sponsorship of a show? Should you go it on like print? How do you do it? Internet? How do you do it? So, then there are copy decisions, media decisions, what kind of media you have to choose, creative advertising and testing, evaluation of advertising effectiveness, right, and claim substantiation. So, there are several points which comes into when you think about promotional research. Today companies are working so much on promotional. So, promotion and price are so closely related. When you talk about offering a coupon, it is a promotion also, and it is also affecting the price. So, they are all affecting each other, right. So, price and promotion are very closely related, and sometimes they get into each other's territory. So, how do you do this? What kind of promotional researches are required in order for companies to do better, right. So, that is very important, especially in a country like India, where you say every day when you say things are free, you see there will be a, or there is a sales today, the markets would be flooded with people, right, customers. So, the point is, how do you tackle such kind of issues? So, how do you promote? Right. When you talk about promote, there is a very serious effect which we can discuss, is the bullwhip effect, we say, in supply chain. So, how do promotional effects or promotional incentives or promotional measures lead to a bullwhip effect, and how sometimes that could be very dangerous for companies, right. Even companies like Procter and Gamble, Kimberly Clark, they had to face a severe bullwhip effect due to a promotional strategy, a poor promotional strategy, right. Similarly, product research, when you talk about what is the product, how do you develop the product, how do you test the product. So, concept development and testing, determine the optimal product design, what is the best product design. So, product design also varies according to the culture, right. In some culture, the product, they make the product looking more, they take into account the gender also, right. Sometimes they make it look more feminine, sometimes they make it look more masculine. So, depends, right. Package test, product modification, then brand positioning, and finally test marketing. So, in order to make a product successful, all these points are very important, and the marketer, when it wants to get into a new market, because see, in the home market there is no issue, but when you are getting into a new market, one has to be extremely careful that it has to be tested properly before the launching the product, because once you launch the product, there is no point in coming back, because then already it has got into commercialization, and then if somebody does not do well, and it fails, then it is a huge loss for the companies, right. So, all these researches have to be done very properly, so that the company does not make does not fall prey to the ignorance that they have of a new market or a new culture altogether. So, this is all we have for today, and I will continue from here in the next lecture. Thank you so much.